Beautiful. Here I am with Nardean. My great pleasure to be in conversation with an old friend and a peer. And I'm excited to see what kind of terrains we explore in this conversation right now. Thank you for being here, Nardean.
I'm excited too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to talk about music and art and choosing to be a musician and what that process has been like for you. And I feel really privileged actually to have known you for a little while now and have a sense of the journey, but I also know there's a whole lot I don't know about your journey. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to hear more of the intimate details of what it's been like and what it's like for you now. So let's just start with a question of how it was for you to choose music, what that journey was. And how did you know? How did you know and how did you choose it?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Like funny place to start, because I think a lot of the time when I ask people this question, or I've heard people answer this question, the answer is like, oh, I grew up with my family playing music, or I grew up with music all around, or like, my uncle gave me a guitar when I was 3 years old, and but something that for a long time I used to think was a disadvantage, but now I've come to see it as an advantage, is that I got into music really late, actually. So I grew up with, really strict Arab family, who kind of this immigrant mindset of like, okay, we've come to this new country to give you a good life. Now do everything that we say in order to have this safe, comfortable life. So that means go to uni, become like an engineer, pharmacist, a doctor, whatever, a lawyer, and do those things. And don't do anything else, otherwise we won't love you. Not explicitly said like that, but that was the undertones. So yeah, I didn't grow up with any kind of concept of music being a possibility as a career. I didn't realize I could sing till I was like 21, maybe 22 is when so the actual story of what happened then is that I was working at G-Star, like this clothing store at the time. I was at uni. I was studying to be an English and drama teacher. And I started dating this guy who was a rapper. And at this point I was like still really Christian and still kind of equated like everything with being a sin, like disobeying your parents is a sin, that sort of thing. Music was a sin because it was like sexual and all these sorts of crazy weird links I had in my mind. And then I started dating this guy who was a rapper. I was doing this subject at uni that was like, it gave me a really broad perspective that just seemed so much more logical than the world was made in 7 days. So there was kind of this serendipitous few months where the world just opened up and things like really solid ideas that I had started collapsing around me. And then I was dating him. I ended up going to this event that Paisley put on, who back then was called Reese, one of our friends. And for the first time, I saw a woman on stage rapping. And I just remember seeing her and being like, I have to do that. Like, that's what I have to do, And then, from there, it was like, I started actually, so what happened was I contacted her, the woman that I saw on stage rapping. And we ended up having a Zoom chat, and the piece of advice she gave me was write poems. If you want to rap, write poems and perform them at spoken word poetry events, and it'll teach you to like mean what you say when you're rapping.
Amazing.
And so that's how it started. And then gradually now, like more, it started off as poems and rapping, but more and more I've been singing more and more lately and learning piano and like understanding music itself more. That's the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, I can imagine people hearing this, they may think, okay, you're saying that you started late, but it doesn't seem like it. Like you still seem really young and beautiful, vibrant, fresh energy. So yeah, I'm just curious about that. Maybe there was an idea in your mind that it was really late, but what makes you feel like you were late?
Um, I mean, like there are, you know, the idea of like 10,000 hours of practice, right? Or that idea, you know, someone like um so someone like Alpha Mama, for example, who's another friend of ours, like Alpha kind of, or people that grew up playing music, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of had this idea that, you know, if you're singing in harmony every Sunday in church, or if you're in the church band, like you kind of have this like 5 years of kind of unconscious practice where you don't have the, sometimes like when you're an adult, you have that like, oh, I have to be good at this thing, and you're so kind of self-conscious about it. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I kind of missed those, like the advantage that you get when you just kind of grow up around music and you hear it all around you, and it becomes just part of the way you see the world. But in saying that as well, like I was saying, I've come to realize lately that it's actually in some ways an advantage, because I didn't have a lot of musical knowledge or kind of ideas about how music should sound or whatever. Like I often make interesting choices that someone else wouldn't make, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm 29 now,
Yeah.
which is young, you know, is relatively young, but I feel, yeah, it's just that idea of I for a long time I felt like I was trying to catch up, you know,
Mm-hmm.
knowledge wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you made the bold decision to choose to be a musician and an artist in the world, what were a couple of the key fears or blocks that came up for you during that period? And how did you bust through them? And how are you
Hmm.
still busting through them, if you have any left, or maybe they're all gone, I'm not sure.
um yeah, I mean, I guess I've always been quite a like determined and headstrong person, and if I and like stubborn in a lot of ways as well. Like if I decide something, then that's what's happening, you know. It's kind of how I see, like, or how I approach my life, you know. um and I think interestingly enough, you know, the boyfriend that I started dating, who was a rapper, he was really into the law of attraction, which was something new to me at that time as well. But the fact that you can create your reality, and I'd kind of just left Christianity, and I've found this new thing that, you know, these days I take everything with a grain of salt. Like, I don't know if it's real or not. It seems to work in my experience of life. But at the time, I just, because I'd left this big belief behind of Christianity, it's like suddenly I was looking for something else to fill it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, it's like this kind of idea that you can create your reality mixed with my own sort of determined nature was like, okay, well, I have to do this, you know. And like one of the big fears, of course, was because I dropped out of uni to pursue music, you
Mm-hmm.
know. um and one of the big fears was like the biggest block essentially was my family's opinion, you know, and just like the fact that I had to literally go against everything I'd ever been taught growing up and
Mm.
everything anyone ever wanted of me. And so I feel like in a way that, like, as terrifying as it was to defy them, it was like a real uh fortifier of my like desire to make it work. It's like, okay, shit, well, if I'm gonna do the wrong thing, then I better make it work.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
I would say that was one of the biggest ones, and then the other biggest one again is the skill thing, like feeling like I wasn't skilled enough. um and I still, it's funny, like 8 years later I still feel like I'm not skilled enough, or like I still feel like my the what I want to create is like just beyond the reach of what my body can do. But I think that that is always going to be the case. You know, that's kind of one thing I've realized is like the more you know, the more you realize there is to know, and you'll always be like wanting to make something better than what you can make, you know?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that?
Do I feel like that? I definitely feel like it's a lifetime journey, and I'm not satisfied, you know, with what I've already created. And with the albums that I've made thus far, I still have this feeling of, you know, I want to bring more magic, more love, more energy, more catharsis, more darkness, more beauty to the table. So the hunger is
totally
still very much there. So what are some highlights, Nardean, in your journey of performing, recording, connecting? If you just even, you know, maybe want to close your eyes and just remember some moments that have really moved you, that have made kind of deep sense of what you've chosen.
Like I already, as soon as you asked, I already remembered the first, like one moment came to me so quickly, and it was literally the first time I ever performed. I performed, actually, you might even, do you remember Alpha did that initial like God Queen sister circle or something, like the first one she did like years and years and years ago? And I can't remember if you were there or not, but I have a feeling you were. But anyway, through that, there's this woman, Kerry, there, Kerry Ellis, who puts on an event. She was at the time putting on events at Mr. some pub in Glebe. I can't remember what it's called. And anyway, so I did a poem there about my hair at that sister circle, and then Kerry was like, I love this poem, do you want to come perform it at our evening, at our night? And so I went and I performed it. It was the first time I'd ever performed a poem in front of an audience, and I just remember this like tangible sense, like it was as real as this coffee cup, you know, of like kind of 20 or 30 seconds into the poem, and it's like the whole energy in the room went like it's like everyone, it just, I don't even know how to describe it, you know, but I'm sure you felt it. It's like that feeling when, and I'm getting goosebumps, head tingles talking about it. It was like everyone just tuned in with each other, with me, and I just like felt it. It was so strong. And then I just remember this voice in my head that was like, this is what you're meant to do with your life. Like it was so strong, and so powerful. It's actually so good to tell you that, to be reminded of that moment. So you know how you forget about these things? So that's a really, definitely like one of the most powerful performing moments.
Maybe we can call it jejum. The jejum effect.
The jejum, exactly. Perfect.
Cool. And what about one more further along the path?
This one was pretty recent, and it was recording. So this room that I'm in is new. I hired the room next door one Sunday a week, and I finished off my EP in that room. And I had this song that I was working on that's going to go on my new EP, and I'd already written I'd written most of it, but I didn't really like the chorus. And so I was like sitting in that room kind of trying to rework it. And also like I'd written it, you know, months before, and I was like, this song needs a new chorus, this song needs a new chorus. And it wasn't, you know how sometimes you just got to wait for it to arrive, you know, wait for the thing to arrive. And I was sitting in that room, and then I was like, I got the hit of inspiration, like, okay, work on this song. So I started working on it, and the chorus came through, and it was the most simple shit ever. It's not your fault, it's not my fault, it's no one's fault that it happened like this. It's like, it's the most simple chorus ever. But as soon as I started writing it and singing it, tears, you know?
Mm.
Like just tears streaming of because obviously I was writing it about someone that I was like, I felt really upset and I felt like angry and annoyed. But this song ended up being like the forgiveness, you know, the like look, it's not your fault, it's not my fault, it just, this is how it happened, you know. And I just remember like crying, and as you know, as soon as I started crying, I was like, okay, well, that's the chorus. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that story. Yeah, I love how simple it can end up being as well.
Yeah. That's one thing I've been really thinking, like, I mean, I swing, right? But for a while, and especially with this last EP, like I feel like I often in my other work as well, like in my first two records, I was really trying to be complex or be like convoluted or poetic or like what's a cool, interesting thing I do, but it just ended up getting so heady and like not reachable for a lot of the work, I think. And so for these records, I've just been really trying to, what's the first thing? Like, what's the first lyric that comes to your head? Go with that. Just roll with that, you know? And like edit when you need to, but only edit if it serves the song. Don't edit because your ego wants you to appear clever or, you know, like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. So as you're talking, Nardean, what I get a sense of and what I've witnessed in you over the years is this really palpable sense that you are taking your work seriously, that you're really showing up to it in a non-negotiable kind of a way. And I've also witnessed you, you know, kind of draw the line and say, you know, I can't put my energy there. Like I've got to focus on my music. I've got a music career to pursue, to be in, to live. So yeah, I'm just curious about that. Is that just that kind of beautiful stubbornness that you were talking about before, or what is it that helps you take it really seriously? Because there are so many people, including myself actually, who struggle with believing that it's truly a worthwhile thing to do with your time, you know. So just the value and the seriousness, conviction. Yeah, I'd love to hear about your relationship with that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for me, it's almost like no matter how hard it is or how many times I'll, you know, message my manager and be like, I suck at music, I can't do this anymore. It's like, you know, within 5 minutes, I'm like, I should write a song about how I want to quit music. And it's like, it's just incessant. Like, it's, I think you really, I don't know if it's like, I don't know if there's any secret other than the fact that I literally just decided, like, I'm going to make a career out of this, whatever it takes. Like, it's just a decision that I made. And it's like, you know, I read a lot of, like, I read a lot of books about mindset and understand, like, and, you know, just knowing that if you want something, you have to take responsibility for making that happen in the world, you know, like, and I've given up, you know, on the idea that, because this is the thing as well that I've realized is like, you know, I've had, you know, I have management now, I have a booking agent, I have a record label, but like with, and like I'll get added to Spotify playlists, like all these things that when I first started would have been like, if that happens, I've made it, you know, I'm successful. But then once I get all of these things, I realize that that's not how it works actually. You know, it's like you still have to consistently every day, like it's like you're riding a bike, you know, just because you've pushed the pedal once the bike is not gonna, like, you have to keep pedaling, you know. And like pedaling through the hurdles and pedaling, and then sometimes it might be downhill and sometimes it might be uphill. But yeah, I think it's just the decision that, like, this is the bike I've chosen to ride. And I'm just, because like in reality, what the fuck else am I going to do with my life? Like, there's literally no other job that I can think of that I would want to spend like that I would want to spend the rest of my life doing. And yeah, it's hard, and yeah, it makes me question my identity on a regular basis, you know, and my self-worth, because, you know, if I can't write a song, does that make me like, you know, the noise is all the noise. But I think honestly, that's the secret. It's just like, I just decided that I'm going to do it, and so I'm doing it, you know. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, I'm really hearing that very clearly. And I'm curious, what is a day in the life of a pedaling Nardean? Like, what do you actually do? How much time are you putting in? What does it look like?
Yeah. So I don't make all my income from music at the moment. I do make, I would say maybe like 30% of my total income comes from music, but the rest of my time I've built this kind of small and sustainable social media business, management business, where I have like 3 or 4 clients where I do video editing and like writing copy and posts and things for them. And like I've hit the jackpot really, because I can do about 1.5 days of work and have like all my expenses covered, plus some money to save and to invest in music as well. And again, that was, I think, just, I don't know, maybe I just am a lucky person. Like, but again, like, yeah, I mean, however it happened, you know, that's what happened. But in saying that as well, I have had like, I worked in retail for like 10 years. And then I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. But yeah, so at the moment, my life, especially with lockdown and things like that, at the moment, I kind of leave home, walk to my studio. First thing I do when I get in my studio is I practice. I do like 20-25 minutes of singing and 20 or 25 minutes of piano. And then I just write a checklist of shit. So it'll be either, like at the moment, I'm not writing that much new music because I finished an EP and I don't have, I don't know, it's like I'm just empty a bit at the moment, you know. I don't have the new inspiration to write about. But you know, I might be adminning, I might be replying to emails with elephant tracks, I might be, you know, thinking about the cover art for my next single, like all that. There's all sorts of admin tasks. I might be organizing writing sessions with other people, like Zoom sessions. And then, yeah, really just like in the evenings, I try and leave the studio by like 6 p.m. at the latest, and go home and chill out for the evening, you know. So it's not like I'm trying to be really adamant about that, you know. Yeah. One important thing that actually I do as well, I've been a bit inconsistent with it lately, but journaling and like creation journaling, which I learned off Leah Steele, because she's one of my clients and I edit videos for her, and she was like kind of all the time hammering on about creation journaling. So I will literally journal like things like, you know, my life gets easier every day, opportunities come knocking at my door, like just like affirmation type things, you know. You know, I'm open to receiving new song ideas. And then I'll journal about things that aren't even real, like thank you for my sold out world tour, which hasn't happened yet, but you know, like if you can, anything you want, how's this for insight? Anything that you want, literally anything you want, you only want it because you think that in having it, you will feel better. like whether that's a partner or a music career or like a new computer, it's like you think that your life will be better and easier once you have that thing. So I just try and feel better before having the thing by like journaling about it, imagining it, you know, just search for the feeling and then the things come. So journaling is a really important part of what I do as well. Yeah.
Sounds really fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I mean, there's the occasional, you know, breakdown in there.
Yeah. Schedule that in once a week, once a fortnight.
yeah.
Yeah.
Schedule in the good old cry, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, go ahead.
The other thing as well, actually, that is sort of like, it's sort of related, but it's not directly related. Well, I would say it's actually directly related. So one thing that I think is really important right now for artists is like the left and right brain balance, you know, like being creative and writing songs, but also like doing your taxes, you know, or like saving, you know, saving money and those sorts of things, planning out releases. So yeah, like some of my admin things are like things like tracking my income, because what I was speaking to my housemate the other day, and saying that, like, you know, artists are often labeled as like this kind of messy, like unable to manage money and those sorts of things. But it's like, it's actually like, if you have a 9-to-5 job and you make money, like you get a paycheck every fortnight and it's like, you know, $3,000 every fortnight, you know that your rent costs this much, your electricity costs this much, you can save this much. It's like, that's so easy for people to manage, you know. But whereas us, we're getting like $150 here, $50 here, $2,000 here, and it's so hard to keep track of. So it's like, we actually need to be better at managing those things than the regular citizen, you know. So like good portions of my day are spent doing those sorts of things as well, you know, really taking the business side seriously.
Yeah, thanks for speaking to that. Yeah, we can't just pretend that we can ignore those realms, because I feel like financial stress is definitely a killer of creativity.
Totally. And it costs money to make music. You know, like to make an album, that's expensive.
What do you budget it as these days?
Well, that's why I got this studio, and that's why I'm like starting to, so like it's all about finding little hacks, right? So my first record, I spent so much more money than I needed to. My second record as well, I spent so much more money than I needed to. I found like this really expensive engineer who, don't get me wrong, I think that actually really helped, and it kind of set a standard. But my last, the EP that I've just finished, that's not out yet, I hired a studio room once a week on Sundays for $100 a week. It had a really good microphone in there. And I just tracked all my own vocals as opposed to doing it with an engineer, you know. And then I got someone to mix and master that. But like, if you're hiring a studio and an engineer, that's like, you know, and then someone to mix and master it, someone to mix it, someone to master it. If you're working with producers, that's also like, you know, $300, $400 per track. Like it can cost up to 15 grand. That's like a small budget to make a record, you know? So it is like, it costs money to make. It's the most unsustainable business model. You put all this money in and you you have to really just decide, nah, I'm gonna make my money back and I'm gonna keep going until I do, you know?
Yeah, for a long time I didn't even consider that it was possible to make money from the albums. I just wanted to make the albums. And
Yeah,
then I kind of clicked, hang on, you know, this is
yeah,
not sustainable. Yeah.
totally.
It's just
Yeah,
like a gift
yeah,
for people forever. But yeah, it does take a
and
lot.
that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that's a really beautiful sentiment, and it is like both of those things can be true.
Yeah.
Like it is a gift still, you
Mm.
know, but it's a gift that you can get paid for as well, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So let's just talk for a little moment about things like grant writing, crowdfunding, Patreon, because there are students in my course who are considering some of those kinds of paths. And just curious what's worked for you and what decisions do you make now as well in terms of how to connect with your audience, your crowd.
yeah. um so it's funny, like all this talk about money, I have a lot of trouble like asking people for money, so I've never really considered anything like Patreon or crowdfunding. But I have written and received a fair amount of grants.
Mm-hmm.
My first 2 records that I made I got grants to write them. I mean to make them. Like I wrote grants and got the grants to make them.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, it was like a lot of money. Like my first record I got, I think $12,000, and then my second one I got $22,000 to make records.
Mm-hmm.
Which has been, like that absolutely has gave me such an advantage and like a leg up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing as well, like we got to Alpha and I run a jam night now called Frequency, and we got grants to put those on,
Mm-hmm.
which has been really, really great. So one thing that I would recommend with grants actually, and what I've learned with Frequency, is we will have like, we'll be in the same room together and we'll write the grant together. And it's like, it's actually so helpful to have someone else there to bounce ideas off, because you'll say like, you know, if we do this, it gives us like, you know, the ability to change lives, and someone else will be like, oh, by doing this thing, we are positively impacting the, you know, it's like having other people to like catch the ideas. So, you know, like doing grant writing parties or something
Mm-hmm.
could be fun. Definitely grants, definitely grants. And the other thing I would recommend is like have a look over successful grant applications of other people. So, you know, I have PDFs of all the successful grants I've written. I'd be really happy to share them if anyone wants to read over them.
It's so nice.
And like, look, to be honest, you just gotta like talk a bit of shit, you know, like just say what you gotta say. Is how I see it.
We can't make this public anymore. Nardean's advice: talk a bit of shit. What do you mean by that? Talk a bit of shit.
Like, don't lie. I'm not saying to lie, but what I mean is like, what the funding bodies want, in my understanding, is like they want to know that your like project is viable, so that you're not just gonna like, you're not just a nobody who's gonna take this grant money and run away, you know, that you've actually like really thought this through, you understand the positive impact. So like, for example, I mean, like, it's like just take a few points and like extrapolate them, and like maybe stretch it in a way that's like just in a way that shows that you can make good use of this money, and that you understand. I'm rambling because I feel like I can't get my point across. Give me a moment. Okay, for example, when I wrote my first grant, I was talking about, like in the grant, I wrote how this grant is about, this record is about the oppression of Middle Eastern women in society. Like was I thinking about that when I was writing the actual music? Like, no, but everything I write is about the oppression of Middle Eastern women, because that's like what I'm living in my life. If that does that make sense? So it's like I wasn't explicitly writing songs like I'm a Middle Eastern woman who's oppressed, but it was like I just kind of went with what they want to hear, essentially,
Mm-hmm. Yep, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you.
yeah. I don't think it's unethical.
My experience is just also to be personal and honest in the grant. Yeah, took me a while to realize that it didn't have to be really fancy language. Actually just needed to be translating my truth. Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally, that you care about what you're making.
Yeah.
Okay,
amazing, thank you. I think you'd be amazing on Patreon, by the way, if you ever decide to. I really like the 1,000 true fan idea.
Yeah, I like that idea as well. Yeah, I just don't know if I'd be able to like commit to sharing things all the time,
Yeah.
In that
Speaking
way.
of which, social media. Do you enjoy social media? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it?
Yeah, sometimes I enjoy it. I mean, I love the dopamine hit when people like my things. No, what I love about it is that it's an opportunity to share like more of me than comes across in my music, because often even Alice, to me, like often my music is quite dramatic, or like it's like this really, there's like bits of it that are like really dark and that sort of thing, or like sad girl or whatever, but then on social media I'm just like sometimes just so dumb and awkward and and I think one thing that I really enjoy, like one thing that I really try and do as well on my social media is just like be real and be honest and like, consistently kind of share stories where there's like no filter and no makeup, just to be a real human, which I think is like, especially in, hip hop world is like, there's a lot of like kind of fakeness and facade. So yeah, I think like that's one thing that I really enjoy doing is just trying to be real on there. Yeah. And like, I mean, I always think I could be posting more, but
yeah, you do quite a bit.
Yeah.
Nice fun. But you enjoy it enough to not feel like, oh God, I have to post something now.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think as well, because of the video editing skills and like the tiny bit of graphic design I do for the social media clients that I have, like I actually really enjoy making, like I just see it as another form of art, like making single artworks and making like little animations that are like out now or coming soon. Like I just see them as other ways to create a world or tell a story, Yeah,
beautiful. I think it's important to see it as creative as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
creative and connecting. Ultimately.
It's a place to tell your story,
Yeah. Cool. I would love to just speak for a moment about your voice, about your relationship with singing. There are some, people who I'm working with who maybe are earlier on in their journey of knowing what their voice is. And I'd just love to hear about a little bit more about your journey of connecting with your voice, finding your voice, embodying your voice, trusting your voice. Just give us a little snapshot of that arc.
So again, as I mentioned kind of like at the start of the call, is I felt late, or I felt like I didn't how funny. Talking about my voice, I'm suddenly all phlegmy. Yeah, I felt like I came in late, and that I didn't have, I wasn't just singing from when I was a child, and you know so I often, felt left behind, and I think for a long time, it's so funny, like I think that I used to think I was a better singer than I think I am now, even though I would have been a way worse singer back then, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but now where I'm at, so I've been getting singing lessons now for about a year, maybe just under a year, maybe like 3 school terms or something. And that's been freaking awesome. I feel like I've come into my voice more than ever before. I'm trusting it more. I'm like learning more and more about we're learning, technical things about the voice and doing exercises, but the reason it's great having a teacher is she listens to my voice. It's not just like a recording where I'm doing, random singing exercises or warm-ups. It's like she's listening to my voice and what kind of blocks I have, and she gets it as well. She gets that the voice is so connected to everything, emotional things. I remember, like, when I was getting my singing lessons for the first term, there were maybe like 3 classes where I sang loud. I'm getting goosebumps again. Where I like sang loud properly, and like I started crying, because it was one of the first times that I felt really like I let it out, so yeah, it's been a bit like my journey with my voice, I won't lie, has been really like tumultuous. I used to I still do. I get anxiety watching back, like when people tag you in stories of you performing. I get anxiety watching it back because I'm like, oh my God, what if I'm pitchy? What if it sounds horrible? I don't want to watch it. So it's definitely been tumultuous, but right now it's like kind of that same determined attitude of like, okay, well, here's a problem, here's the solution. Practice. Sing all the fucking time, sing different songs, and like get someone to help. And that's what I've been doing, and it seemed like it seems to really be working, which is really nice.
Amazing. Must be a great teacher. What's her name?
She's really good. Her name is Sharon Muscat. So her and her sister have a singing school called Sister to Sister School of Singing. And yeah, what I often say about Sharon is like, there are people that are like great singers, but what I've realized with Sharon is like she's a great singer, but she's also a great singing teacher, which is like it's a totally different skill set, but she's been teaching for like 20 years or something. So yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, thanks for speaking to the emotional aspect of it as well. It makes me think of sex actually, and how sometimes you can just cry and not know why, or some tension is releasing in your body, something is being touched beyond our understanding. So yeah, it feels like, does it feel like that may be happening in the voice? Yeah,
totally. It's like even she would, even when I first started singing, she pointed out started lessons, she pointed out to me that my voice used to be really back here. It was like really throaty, and it was almost like I was swallowing my own words. But the more we speak, the more we get lessons, the more my speaking voice comes out into the front of my face and actually resonates. And it's so like, it's so connected. Singing, she said this really nice thing to me. She said, because she was talking about breath because I was like holding things in. She's like, remember, singing is breathing out, you know, like that's what you're doing when you're singing. It's essentially breathing out, and it's just like it's like a big
yeah
so it's like a big exhale, you know.
So nice. Okay, my last question for you, Nadine. Just curious if you could give us a little snapshot of your big vision. What do you want to do and create and experience in this lifetime as a singer, performer, creator, collaborator?
Yeah. I like want to travel the world and play music. Like that's, you know, standard. I want to be selling like 10,000 tickets to a show. Like, I don't know, random number, but you know, I just would love to just be like a world renowned music maker. That's definitely at the top of the list. And then kind of trickling down from that, I'd love to also be like, I want to write songs with other people. Like I want to be known as a really good songwriter, and like, you know, because that's one thing I actually really enjoy as well, is doing sessions with other people and not being on the song, just being in the room and helping them get their ideas out. And then on like a more community grassroots level, I really want to like in Western Sydney, which is where I grew up, and where there's like kind of a severe lack of infrastructure and resources, I want to like build a music venue, like a dedicated live music venue, you know, maybe with like pathways for you know, kids who don't have access to those things or can't afford those things, like, you know, just creating that sort of school maybe, or something like that. Yeah, I would say they're like the main ones.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah,
I'm excited. I feel like I'm, you know, pedaling towards it.
You're in it. You're on the path.
Totally.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nadine, for your generous sharing of your heart and your experiences. Thank you so much. And
Thank you so
I have
much.
one question for you, which is, do you have a question for me? Just to kind of change it up. If you could ask me anything.
What do you do? Like, are you always writing songs, or do you go through periods of not writing songs? And answer that first, and then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. I'm definitely not always actively finishing songs. But songs are often moving around and moving in me, even if it's just that I'm driving and I'm improvising some silly thing. And then sometimes I'll pull over and record it. So in that way, kind of stuff's always around, but I have to really actively choose to finish something in order to really call it in and ground it in and make it a song. That doesn't just happen unless I'm kind of heartbroken and unable to function, you know. Then sometimes it'll happen more like out of necessity. But otherwise, I have to really choose. I have to really choose to stay with it and complete it. And that's partly why I even am running a songwriting course for others, is because it helps me commit more to regular creation, to committing to finishing a song once a month. Otherwise, I'll just half finish things, and you know, I don't need to finish them in order to feel some level of connection with it. So the finishing is a whole different part of me that needs to come through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. It's like I'm starting a lot of things, and not really finishing them.
But my desire to share them with others is also what motivates me to finish them, because I love performing so much and I love recording. So that'll be enough. If I know I've got a gig coming up, sometimes I'll arrange a gig just to coax myself into finishing some songs, because I love sharing
Wow.
new material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Sucks about the lockdown.
Yeah. Do Zoom gigs.
Yeah.
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 There'll be more
I suppose.
gigs.
Yeah.
There will be more shows.
Yeah. Cool. Love that. Yeah, if any of your people in the songwriting course want to like reach out to me, that's super welcome. Just putting that out there.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, reaching
worries.
out, connecting. And yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation, because we are peers, and it's beautiful to just remember that, and
Totally.
yeah, and be in the conversation. So thank you.
Yeah. I've missed you. It was really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, Natty.
All right.